For the better part of 15 years, it kind of felt like the global economy was on an unstoppable roll. Well, that era is over. A huge shift is happening, and in this explainer, we're going to break down what powered that boom, why it ended, and explore a really surprising vision for what could come next. Okay, let's get into it. So, here's the big puzzle we need to solve. From about 2005 to 2020, we had this thing economists call the Great Moderation. Basically, the world was growing, things were getting better, but prices weren't going crazy. I mean, that's the dream, right? The best of both worlds. So why couldn't it last forever? What went wrong? To figure out why it all ended, we first have to understand what was making it work in the first place. And the source material we're digging into points to two secret ingredients that created this really unique period of economic calm and prosperity. Now, the explanation is rooted in a theory called the New Keynesian model. And don't worry, we're not about to get lost in a bunch of economic jargon. The main idea is actually pretty simple. You could have strong growth without crazy inflation if you get something called a positive supply shock. Just think of it like a massive sudden injection of new, productive stuff into the global economy. And here's the wild part. During this golden age, the world didn't just get one of these shocks. It got hit with two of them at the exact same time. First, you had 1 billion new workers. After China joined the WTO in 2001, a massive workforce from there, plus India and Eastern Europe, basically plugged into the global system. It was a huge one-time boost. And happening right alongside that, a tech revolution. We're talking explosive growth in computing power, mobile internet, and a whole new generation of skilled people who knew how to use it all. So these two forces together were like rocket fuel for the global economy. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. That rocket fuel was never going to last forever. You see, these weren't permanent changes to how the world works. They were amazing, powerful, one-time jolts. And now they're wearing off. And you can see the whole story play out right here on this timeline. The labor shock kicks into high gear back in 2001, and that powers the boom years. But look where we are now, in the 2020s. That engine has sputtered out. The easy wins from globalization are pretty much gone, and something a lot more difficult is taking their place. And this is the real kicker. According to the source, the very same economic model that explained all the good times doesn't just predict things will slow down. It actually predicts a full-on reversal. That means the same forces that pushed us forward could now start dragging us backward. The biggest reversal is all about demographics. That first supply shock, all those new workers, it's flipping on its head. Look at Japan and South Korea. They're already dealing with a serious crisis. China's so-called demographic dividend is over. That advantage is gone. And Africa, which is the last place on Earth with a massive young population, has seen way too little investment in its people. The cheap labor engine is just running out of gas. Okay, so if the old way of doing things is broken, what comes next? The source we're exploring lays out this really stark choice, a fork in the road with two pretty dangerous paths for our future. On one side, you have a future that looks a lot like neo-feudalism. Imagine a tiny tech elite that owns all the important stuff, like AI, while everyone else gets by on a universal basic income that's really more about keeping people quiet than setting them free. The other path is empire collapse. This is where societies retreat into some fantasy version of their past, getting swept up in reactionary politics that blame immigrants and democracy for everything that's gone wrong. Yeah, neither of those sounds too good, right? But what if there's a third option? What if we're not doomed to choose between those two? The dialogue we're drawing from proposes a really surprising alternative, one that's actually inspired by a network of trading cities from hundreds of years ago. So the idea revolves around a new coalition of countries in Northern Europe. We're talking about the Nordics, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, plus the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And, this is crucial, Poland. The whole argument is that this specific group of nations has a really unique mix of strengths to lead the way on a different path. So why this group? What makes them so special? Well, they've got some serious advantages. First off, these are high-trust, functional societies that are also highly educated and way ahead on tech. And here's a big one. They don't have all that imperial baggage, which makes them much more credible partners for developing countries. Plus, when you add Poland to the mix, this bloc suddenly has real economic muscle. And let's be super clear about the goal here. It's not about creating another superpower to throw its weight around. The idea is for this group to be a proof of concept, to show the world on a scale that everyone can see that a different kind of future is actually possible, one that's cooperative, high-tech, and much more fair. So that's the who. and the why. But what would they actually do? Okay, let's get into the concrete plan for how to build this next generation economy. The engine for the next 40 years, the big idea, is a massive global clean energy build-out. You can think of it like a new Marshall Plan for the 21st century. And this isn't just about fighting climate change. It would be this incredible project to create jobs, push technology forward, and just generate huge economic demand for decades to come. And what's really important here is that we're not talking about science fiction. This is about building out things like wind, solar, and next-generation nuclear power, creating a modern grid to connect it all, and rolling out huge energy storage systems. But that note at the bottom is maybe the most important part. The money, the technology, the standards to do all this, they already exist. We could start tomorrow. And this is where the whole argument takes a really fascinating turn, because it completely flips the script on AI. You know the story we always hear, AI is coming for the factory jobs and the truck drivers, right? Well, this source proposes an inverted story. What if AI's real superpower isn't automating blue-collar work, but automating the managerial class, all those layers of project managers and compliance officers? Think about it for a second. What's the biggest thing that slows down huge infrastructure projects, especially in places like Africa? It's not a lack of people to do the work, it's the insane administrative overhead, the paperwork, the compliance, the management. Well, AI can automate all of that. It can slash costs and empower local workers to do the actual building, creating real skills and real wealth right there. It's a model that builds people up instead of just extracting value. So that brings us to the final big question. If the money's there, the technology was ready to go, and a credible plan is on the table, is the only thing that's really missing just the will to do it? A failure of our collective imagination? It kind of suggests the biggest challenge we face isn't economic or technical at all. It's a question of courage.